Today, we're going to teach you all how to start a podcast from scratch. I'm tired of answering the questions. Let's just put it out there. For those of you who do not subscribe to my podcast, The Higher Standard, we've started from effectively nothing a year ago to the top 2% now. To some, that might not be impressive, but to us, it's been a long journey. And all the people we meet along the way have had a lot of questions for us. But the one question I get more than any other question is, how do you start a podcast? How do I do this? What do I need? Tell me how to do it because I've got this great idea and I'm tired of answering that question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it to you all in a condensed format right now so you know everything you need to know to get your podcast started. First and foremost, I can't come up with the idea, so you're going to have to figure that out entirely on your own. But once you have the idea, you need to ask yourself, do you need a co-host? Is it going to be you talking as a talking head format just like this to your audience? Or is it going to be more engaging and more inviting if you have a co-host? Or some people also go the route, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use it to leverage up my business, and they start interviewing people for business purposes. I will give you a bit of caution for the interview style format. If you're tending to interview people that are for your business purpose, it isn't necessarily enjoyable for everyone else. So you want to be a happy medium between selling your product and selling your brand and interviewing people that are good for business, as well as providing entertainment. And sometimes those two don't go hand in hand. So be cognizant of your entertainment value. Once you have your idea, you settle on a format, you need to start looking at equipment. You don't have to go out the gate and get something like the Rode Podcaster Pro, which is what I have and use at this point in time. You could start with something as simple as a Focusrite, a Scarlett 2i2, which allows you to plug in 2 XLR cables and 2 microphones, and away you go talking to everybody else. You don't necessarily need XLR cables and high-end audio equipment. You can even get a mic like a Shure MV7, I believe is what it is, and that actually plugs into a USB-C right into a headphones, and you don't even need an audio interface. So the reason why I tell you this is there's no necessarily perfect example, but the first thing you want to do is decide on mics. Mics of choice that are very popular, a Shure SM7B, that's what I use, what you see in the background of a lot of the show stuff that we do. I like the Shure MV7 if you're going to start off basic and you don't have an audio interface. The Rode Podcaster setup has a Rode podcast microphone for $99. It's very cost effective, works great with the Rode products, and frankly is plug and play to all the stuff they're going to use for other audio interfaces, and it doesn't give you bad return for your dollar. Those are the 3 mics that I typically refer people to the most, but you don't necessarily need that. You can do that anywhere you have a quiet background and a clear enough mic. You should be good to go because you're going to do a lot of stuff on the back end to get rid of a lot of that noise. The second thing you need to ask yourself is, if you're going with a Shure SM7B or you're going with the Rode mic, do you necessarily need an audio interface? I always recommend using a microphone with an XLR cable if you're going to be doing this and you want to sound professional. XLR cables basically are audio cables that plug into your microphone, and they can't go straight into your computer, so you have to use an audio interface. So what you're really going to do is you're going to figure out what audio interface do you need. If it's just you by yourself and maybe one guest, a Scarlett 2i2 will be very cheap and effective. If you're going to have up to 4 guests, you can go with the Rode Podcaster Pro, which is what I use, and I found that most other podcasters use. You can also use something called a Zoom, and there are several different versions for how many people you want on it, but a Zoom is a very, very popular and mobile device. If you're going to go on the road with your microphones and record people, check out the Zoom products. They offer some wonderful audio interfaces, and you can really roll around, plug in your XLR cable, plug in your mic, go wherever you want to go, and when you're done, you're done. It's pretty simple. From there, you need to figure out what your show is going to be like. What's the format? Is it going to be 40 minutes? Is it going to be 2 hours? What is it going to be? So for us, for our show, we decided that 40 minutes was a great length of time, and that time was perfect to keep attention, not go too far into detail, and really touch on the high points of things that were reoccurring. For some guests, we go 2 hours. For some guests, we go 40, 45 minutes. And the reason why guests have a tendency to be more engaging when the conversation is frankly something enjoyable or related to a topic, or they've never talked to you before on a podcast. And that also gives you a little bit of time to edit things out in the beginning or the end if a guest happens to warm up a little bit slow. That can happen from time to time. You need to be consistent with your recording schedule though. So once you have the audio equipment and you've decided that you're going to do this, you need to be consistent and put out shows every single week or bi-weekly or once a month or whatever your frequency is. You need to be consistent and stick to it because people that listen to your show and subscribe to it are going to expect to see it pop up in their feed at the same times and the same days over and over again. One of the most reoccurring mistakes I see from young starting podcasters is they do this and they aren't consistent with it. The second thing you want to think about is, do you necessarily want to interview somebody who's going to be in the room with you at all times, or do you want to do this over the internet? And there's a couple different platforms I recommend. If you're just starting out and you want something that's cheap, as in free, Zencastr is a great product. It'll allow you to record video. It'll allow you to record audio. The audio streams on the other person's computer, and then it'll upload as soon as it's done or in real time as you're going through, depending on how fast their internet speed is. The video on that isn't as good as something like Riverside.fm. I've switched from Zencastr to Riverside.fm for remote podcasting whenever I'm interviewing somebody else who's not with me or somewhere else, because you get a much better video feed, gives you about the same quality audio, but the overall interface for me seemed to be a little bit more enjoyable and easier to use. And for the guests, they found it to be a lot easier for them to plug into. Now, one of the things you'll see professional podcasters do is they'll take their microphones and their audio interface or their setup, and they'll mail it to their potential guests if they don't have good audio equipment, because your value proposition to your customers is not only the content of the show, but it's the quality of the show. So you want to make sure that your guests have the same quality audio that you do, or at least comparable when after post-production goes down. So now you're all ready. You record your podcast, you do your thing, you have your files that you need to edit. You can have somebody do it third party. You can pay somebody on Fiverr or whatever it might be. I happen to use a third party service now, but you can actually download a program called Audacity, and Audacity will allow you to upload your content from your audio interface straight into the program, and you can manipulate the audio by doing things like noise reduction. It's very simple. There's tons of tutorials all over YouTube. I won't waste your time with it. It's also a free program, so it's another one of those things just like Zencastr that you can use. It's just out there. Once you're done, you export. You want to pick a syndication service where you can syndicate it out to everywhere podcasts are. You have to be on Apple. 80% of most podcast listeners are listening on Apple Podcasts. But if you want to be on Spotify, which I also recommend, you should try using a syndication service. There's a couple of different versions out there that you can use. We use Captivate at the moment. I'm kind of testing it to see how we like it, and so far it's been so good. Some of the other things you want to think about as you get down this process: your show notes. You want to think about your album cover. You want to think about some small details like that. Those will all be custom and unique to you. I will say not a ton of people utilize those things. Larger podcasts drop names of other people, like their guests or the links or reference material in their show notes. Don't feel obligated to do that right away. Your first priority is going to be engaging your audience in building audio quality and consistency. All those other things will come with time. I hope this gives most of you a good intro into what we're doing, and it shows you how we started this process. We've evolved it a long ways. I've talked to a lot of excellent podcast people. I've talked to people who have 10 million plus downloads a month. I've talked to people who have a couple thousand downloads a month, and you'd be surprised how most of the gear is exactly the same stuff that I've told you about right here. If you want to layer in video podcasting, just know that's a whole different animal. I would recommend starting with audio only and then going to video once you kind of get your bearings and get your flow. Thank you for checking this out. I hope this was informative for you. If you liked it, hit this like and subscribe button, pass along to your friends, and we'll catch you next week.